is. The frozen man leaves the freezer and confronts the woman. "How could you?" he says. "You was dead." The man bounces on the bed. The bed groans but doesn't fight back. "I'm leaving," the man shouts. "It's the middle of summer. You'll melt. Like hell." The man bangs the door shut behind him and walks out into the neighborhood street. He heads for the local bar, thinking maybe he can meet another woman who will put him up. It isn't long before he begins sweating profusely. The sweat doesn't stop. Embarrassed, he ducks into an alleyway where he slides down a wall and quietly sweats himself into non-existence. This is called architecture. The architect climbs to the roof of his tallest building and looks out over the city. He's built all the buildings here. Some of them are small, 2 or 3 floors. Others are towering skyscrapers, like this one. He has to build just one more. It'll be his greatest construction, and then he'll retire and allow some other architect to move in and build structures that shame his. But he wants to do something different with this one. All the other ones, while his design, were built by construction companies. He will build the next one himself. Not knowing where else to begin, he goes to the brick store and buys every brick they have. He has them brought to a vacant lot next to the sea. He places the first brick on his back, and then another one. It quickly becomes painful. His arms do not want to move in that direction, but after a while it gets easier. The brick store continues to bring him more bricks as they get them in. He continues stacking them on his back. Yes, this is what he wants to build. The tallest building in the city with himself as the foundation. He wants it to be a movable structure, but already his legs are starting to buckle with the weight, and he doesn't know if this will be a possibility. Eventually, the building becomes taller than his arms will reach. Each day he stretches a little further, and his arms stretch with him. The bricks sink into his back and become part of him. This goes on for years. He becomes bent and twisted, his arms 100 stories long. He doesn't know what to do with them when he isn't using them, so he keeps them in the lobby. Contrary to his previous belief, he is still able to move around. While his torso has nearly disappeared under the crush of the bricks, his legs have thickened with rippling muscles as hard as brick themselves. Not bad for an old man, he thinks. With his current construction on his back, he wanders over to his previous skyscraper to see how he's measuring up. It's close, only a few more floors, maybe. Once finished, he is so thoroughly enmeshed with the skyscraper he can't distinguish himself from his building. His arms remain absurdly long. He raises them into the air and uses them for antennae. His legs are only about a fourth their original length, and while they can support the structure, it becomes dangerous to move lest everything topple over. As with the ending of all his previous constructions, he is eager to climb to the top of it. Since he no longer has anybody to climb with, he puts his head in the elevator and shoots it to the roof. There he watches the evening and the fog roll in, the distant ships out at sea, and in the other direction the twinkling lights of his previous constructions. He feels the cool, damp breeze and hears the distant drone of airplanes transporting their sleeping cargo away to another city, careful to avoid the steady blinking of the architect's fingertips. This one's called The Cover-Up. So I'm sitting on my bed reading Extreme Gynecology when my father barges into the room. His face is red and sweaty. He sits on the edge of my bed, breathing heavily and twisting his hands in his lap. "What's wrong?" I ask. "Nothing," he says, standing up from the bed and walking across the room, headed for the door. He stops and turns around, comes back to the bed, sits down again. "Look," he says, "you gotta help me." "What's wrong?" I repeat. "It would probably be better if I show you." Some of the nervousness seems to have left him. His eyes go blank and he stands up, walking slowly over to the window. He points out. I sigh heavily, fold up my book and toss it to the other side of the bed, stand up and approach the window. My room is on the 2nd floor and has a pretty good view of the neighborhood. "What? I don't see anything." "Look over there." I look across the street, a couple of houses down, into the Robinsons' yard. A boy lies face down at the edge of the sidewalk. I threw a rock at his head. "Jesus, Dad!" I've never known my father to be violent, and this action surprises me. "That's Benny Robinson. I go to school with him." I'm afraid I clipped him a good one. He might be dead. "Jeez!" I clasp a hand on my forehead, massaging my temples. I couldn't help it. My father throws his arms to either side, begging me to argue with him. I was picking the rocks out of the garden, and he came along and just started plodding through the grass. "So you threw a rock at his head?" "Well, no, Mr. Smartass, I didn't just throw a rock at his head. I asked him to stop it, but he just kept trampling and trampling. Then you threw the rock at his head." "It was right there in my hand. It happened before I even knew what I was doing, but, well, like I said, it clipped him pretty good. He made it all the way down there before he collapsed. How am I supposed to help you? This is definitely not my problem. I just need you to help me move the body. It's kind of fat." All the kids at school used to call him fat. I sit back down on the edge of the bed. I guess they won't be calling him fat anymore. "Come on, we have to do it before your mother gets home. If she finds out, she'll what, call the police?" "Probably. You don't want me to go to jail, do you?" "Maybe you should. Throwing rocks at kids is ghoulish." Look, he says, fishing his heavy wallet out of his back pocket. I'll make it worth your while. He ripples the bills inside the wallet. What are we going to do with him? So you'll help me? Yeah, do I really have a choice? We might have to bury him. Jesus. We need to hustle up before anyone sees him. Together we go downstairs. You go on over there, Dad says. I'll go out back and get the wheelbarrow. Reluctantly, I cross the street. Closing in on Benny Robinson, I wonder if he's dead or not. He looks dead. But that doesn't always mean anything. Standing next to the probable corpse, I hear a door open and see Benny's mother stick her head out. She screams in horror, passes out, and lands half in and half out the door. Sirens scream in the distance. Looking over my shoulder, I do not see my father. I debate running, and then think maybe it would be better if I just stand there. I think of the reward for taking the rap for Dad. There's no sign of him, even as the police fold me into their car and take me away. This next one's called teething. My teeth revolt and decide to leave my head. For 5 hours, I am collapsed onto the floor as each of my teeth painfully remove themselves from my gums. Blood drips from my mouth and onto the carpet. I stand up, woozy from the pain, and stare down at my liberated teeth. The left incisor, marked by a gleaming white filling, seems to be the leader. Together, they march out the door, leaving behind little bloody tooth prints. The wisdom teeth, contrary to the moniker, are slow and clumsy, fat and dim-witted. I sit down on the couch and think about the loss of my teeth. I'm incredibly angry. I look at the carpet, at the large blood stain that marks the beginning of the revolt, and all the little spots they made when they left. The rest of the evening I spend removing the carpet, ripping it up from the floor, and tossing it out into the yard. Exhausted, I retire for the night. Thoughts race through my head. I can't just go about life with no teeth. I'll have to get dentures. But I can't afford dentures. What will I do until then? Perhaps I could grow a large Nietzschean mustache. It will only be a matter of time, however, before my lips and cheeks begin to curve inward, and I'll look like all those homeless guys downtown. I call into work the next day and tell them I need a week off. When they ask me what for, I tell them I can't feel my legs and can't see out of my left eye. They tell me that sounds serious, and I tell them it is. I put orange peels in my mouth, like kids do, only I don't smile. I keep my mouth closed. The peels are only there to give the illusion of teeth. I go to the store and stock up on soups. The next 2 days pass in a wave of black depression. One night, as I'm lying in bed, my teeth come back to me. Most of them do, anyway. The left incisor, the ringleader, reeks of liquor and cheap perfume. The right incisor smells like smoke. The left eye tooth smells